Welcome back, F11 members, to part 2 of the Fundamentals of Post-Production Video Tutorials for issue 81, October 2018. Okay, so we're here in the border country between Ayr and Northern Ireland here, the border running right through this picture. We've stitched together this panorama and are working on it now. Can you see up here, top left? It looks like a wide panorama, but if I go fit, it's even wider. So the thing to do now, actually, is for me to just adjust the crop. Just how wide do I want it? Actually, I think it's a touch wider than I need. So if you remember I selected auto crop in the stitching command, and you can see that's the crop that has been applied. But actually, I'm just going to bring in the width of the panorama a touch to about there on the left and here on the right to about there. And I'm just going to adjust the crop down the bottom as well to give me just a bit more depth on the bottom there. And now I'm going to click on Done. And the problem is, of course, that we've got a little bit of white here in the bottom right-hand corner, but I think I can easily deal with that in Photoshop later, so I'm going to ignore that for the moment. So now let's just look at this area on the right, and what I'm going to do is use a Grad Tool here, another Grad, hold down my Shift key and bring the Grad in from the right. By holding down my Shift key, it keeps this Grad vertical. And what I'm going to do is just apply here a touch of dehaze to this area of the image. Can you see what I'm doing there? That's dealing with that haze that comes with shooting into the light. Not so much haze really as flare, isn't it really? But the effect is the same. And I could maybe just experiment with darkening it down just a hint as well. Just a hint. And I think that's really been quite effective on that area of the picture too. You can see in this area of the sky, it's tending to, I just think I need to actually look at that sky again. So I'm going to click on my Grad Tool, click on this, and this will enable me to fine tune this Grad. I'm going to bring the area of the Grad down a touch there and just widen the gradation just so that I'm not seeing any definite grad line there. You can always fine-tune your grads subsequently, which is very useful. So I'll click on Done there, and now what I want to do is just look at this top right area of the image where the sky's burning out a bit there. So in this case I'm going to use the adjustment brush here, click on Show Selective Mask Overlay, paint in the area that I want to select. Okay, click off the Show Selective Mask Overlay now, and what I want to do is just pull back the highlights a bit in that area of the image. Obviously I can't put in image information that isn't there, and maybe pull back exposure just a hint. I think it's gone too far. Can you see that sky looks overly darkened now? So I'm going to take off that exposure. If in doubt, do nothing. I think really I'm in danger of going too far with that picture, that area of the picture. So I'm going to click on that adjustment brush icon and delete it. There you go. Always work on that basis. If in doubt, do nothing. What now? Well, I'm very pleased with the picture. One thing I could do is I'm producing this for the banner at the top of the F11 photography website page. So if I wanted to fine-tune my crop just to, let's click on Done first of all for that crop. But if I wanted to fine-tune that crop, by the way, the aspect ratio of our web pages is 1920 by 420 pixels. So you can see I've created a custom crop here, 19 by 2 by 4.2 crop. And if I click on that, that will be how the width I need for the web page. But I'm not going to do that just yet. I want to create the master image at full width. So I just go back in my history here. Excuse me. Go back to the previous step. So let's go back to, and I'll click on Done Now. So let's think what needs to be done now. Not much more here in Lightroom. I think I'm pretty much finished with the picture, apart from dealing with this here in Photoshop. So let's now open this up in Photoshop and just fine-tune the image. So what I'm doing actually is exporting the picture here first to save it as a TIFF and then work on it in Photoshop. It means I'm saving this image at this stage. It's not quite finished, but that does have advantages in that if I want to come back and fine-tune anything subsequently, I have this saved TIFF. And as you can see, I've asked to put it in a folder which I've created called Processed Images here. I'm renaming the image to give it a name called Border. It will apply a number. We will need to apply a number as well because it's a stitched image. It's a TIFF. Its color space is Pro Photo RGB. That is the option with the widest gamut. That's useful for working on pictures in Photoshop because it gives us the most information available. I'm going for 16 bits per channel image here as well. So these adjustments are enabling me to hang on to as much information in the image as possible. I'm not resizing the picture. I'm not applying any watermarks. I'm including all the metadata, and I'm asking Lightroom to open the image in Photoshop subsequently. So now I click on Export and that will happen. So here's the image open in Photoshop. First thing I'm going to do is actually rename it, because as you can see here, it's just called it Border 2 because it's a stitched image. It's not got any file name to use there. So what I'm going to do is go back into Lightroom, pick the middle image from the stitch, just look at its number. This is just the way I do things, but it's called 5730. Go back into Photoshop, and now I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to attach the number here, 5730, which will just help me identify, should I need to, the RAWs that associate to this finished image and give it the Pano designation. Useful for searching for images subsequently in Lightroom if I just want to look for panoramas. Okay, so I'll click on Save now, and that's done that. So what do I need to do? Well, clearly we've got this white area down the bottom of the image here, so I'm just going to come up on my magnification, and now I'm going to bring in these tools here, my tools palette, and I'm going to click on the magic wand there and just now select that white area, and I have an action called Expand and Fill which takes care of that, expands the selection by 1 pixel, and then just uses content aware fill to fill in the gaps. If I play that now, that's dealt with that beautifully, hasn't it? Still think it's magic. Let's just move that out of the way. Move this out of the way here now. And come down on my magnification so we can see the whole image. And what I'm going to do now is just fine tune this using the lasso tool here. Just going to select an area of the sky on the left. I'm going to feather that selection, and again I have actions made for this. So I'm going to have a real soft feather on that selection, a 500 pixel feather. Click play on that. Excuse me, I just need to rewind here. I've applied a layer mask, which I don't want to do. So if I bring in my history here and go back to lasso, I don't want to use a mask, I just want to do a feather. So I go up here to feather 500, play that, and that will have feathered that selection. And now what I want to do, use image adjustments, curves here, bring in the curves palette, and this is just for this area of the image that I've selected. So I'm just going to tweak my black points in here. This is going to have the effect of just enhancing the contrast in that area of the sky. Again, I want to be subtle. I click preview on and off there, and I think you can see there it's just putting a touch of contrast into the sky. Click on OK there, deselect, and get everything out of the frame again so I can just look at the image pure without any distractions. I remember working in Photoshop 20 years ago on a tiny little 12-inch monitor, and now I take for granted my two huge monitors I've got here in front of me. I have no idea how we did it back in the old days. Still, there you go. I think this picture is done, don't you? So let's work through the post-production on this image, and I'm really quite pleased with it. I think the detail in it is superb. I think it's a wonderful view, and it's obviously a view with a lot of historical context, as the article Behind the Lens examines in this month's F11 Photography magazine. So thank you for your attention, and please do send in your questions and suggestions. We love hearing from you. See you next month.